Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, of course, the Canadian Snowman, here back once again with the Winter War. This is part 4. Soviets surrounded. I was gonna say, maybe the Soviets come back in this episode because we know last episode they kind of got hit pretty hard. I mean, Finland kind of took they had them, they cut them off. I mean, they gave them. The Soviets just took a lot of deaths, pretty much, and they're trying everything they can, really, to try and make a dent into, Finland's country. Like they're even up north now, and they're trying to make some leeway in. I don't know how that's going to work out. But Soviet surrounded. That doesn't sound very good. That doesn't sound like an episode where the Soviets are going to take control. Let's just say. So I guess we're just going to jump into this. There's not really a whole much else to say except for this series has been awesome, and yeah, I think we're just going to jump into it, guys. So let's go ahead and do it. Hope you guys are an amazing day. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't yet. Please. Thank you. All right. Good deal. All right. Let's do it. Kings and Generals, guys. Make sure you subscribe to them too. Awesome channel. All right. 3, 2, 1. Bam.
As we last saw, the Soviets had advanced too quickly into Finnish territory, stretching their supply lines very thin and exposing themselves to guerrilla tactics employed by the brave and ferocious Finns. North of Lake.
Yeah. Soviets also, they kind of like shot themselves in the foot a couple of times just by, it seems like they're making a couple of careless decisions and stuff like that. So, this war could be a lot closer right now if it wasn't for those couple of things.
Lake Ladoga, the Soviets had suffered a and ferocious Finns. North of Lake Ladoga, the Soviets had suffered a crushing defeat at Elayabi. They had their advance stopped at the Kola River, and their forces were being encircled at Kitila. In this episode, we will cover the outcome of the battles on this front, as the Finns decide to step on the offensive. If you're interested in the history of this era, don't forget to check out our second channel, The Cold War. The link is in the top right corner. This video is brought to you by and using the code Kings and Generals. Our story resumes in the Kitila area, where the situation was more desperate for the Soviets, with the 168th and 18th Rifle Divisions being on the brink of encirclement. On January 3rd, General Helgoland started to prepare his third.
I'm actually surprised. I thought we were going to see some allies come to this, because didn't the Soviets have like guys across the sea there just like waiting to kind of join in the fight? Like, we haven't seen any allies at all. Never mind, we saw Sweden jumped into the war last episode. That was pretty cool, but I haven't seen anyone on the Soviet side jump in there, which I'm very surprised.
On January 3rd, General Helgoland started to prepare his 13th Division for a major offensive aimed to destroy the Soviet forces right where they stood. For this, the Finnish regiment that had previously captured a portion of the Woma Road was reformed into detachment cannon, with orders to hold and reinforce their position at the roadblock. Task Force Archer, in defense of the Kitila crossroads, was depleted to dangerously low levels to create two new offensive forces. First was Task Force Bumblebee, led by the 13th Division commander himself, Colonel Hannu Hanuksala, that had to attack directly into the flank of the 18th. Second was Task Force Dragon, which was to advance from Lake Pyhäjärvi to Cannon's position, with the objective of capturing the rest of the Woma Road, defended only by a Soviet tank brigade. On January 6th, the Finnish offensive started with a feint against the Soviet positions. At the same time, the two main task forces sprang into action. Hanuksala managed to gain control of the road, bisecting the 18th Division, while Task Force Dragon controlled the same road further east, completing the encirclement. As the Soviet units didn't panic or launch a counteroffensive, the Finns continued with their maneuver, establishing 2 motti around the 18th's headquarters at Lemeti. As a result, Helgeland quickly ordered them to continue the attack towards Koirinoja on the shores of Lake Ladoga. If successful, the 168th would be completely cut off from the rest of the Red Army. But Hanukkala knew better. First, they needed to secure their grip over their 2 large motti and repel any relief attempts by the rest of the 18th Division. Furthermore, temperatures below -40 degrees Celsius were taking a heavy toll on both sides, but especially on Task Force Bumblebee. Once the 2 motti were secure,
Man, that is cold, man. Like, they gotta keep moving just to keep themselves warm, man. If you sit down for a long period of time with that kind of weather, man, you freeze where you sit, man. Like, oh man, the conditions there, that's like, it's hard to believe, man, that these warriors, these soldiers, they just, they did it, man. You gotta fight for your country, fight for your lives, man. You do what you gotta do, right?
the Finns started their advance south in encirclement of the 168th Division. By January 9th, Task Force Dragon had occupied the Koivuselka hamlet, cutting off the Soviet supply route to Pikkurenda, while Hanukkala proceeded to Pakitsanmäki, a small hillock overlooking the Pikkurenda road. The next day, both forces joined at Koirinoja and captured the town, thus preventing their foe from escaping southwards.
Wow.
Although the Finns had created 11 independent motti between Kittilä and Koirinoja, the encircled Soviet forces defended their ground with great tenacity. Furthermore, the Soviets were bolstered by a large number of pack animals and were still being supplied by air, so they weren't going to be starved into submission. A week later, the Finns had managed to strengthen their position along.
I just want to say I didn't realize, I always forget, I didn't forget it was a recent, I didn't forget that it was modern warfare, but I didn't realize that the Soviets had, that's how they were getting food, through planes, dropping food for them. So I forgot about that. So they're not starving, and they don't have to always, rely on that supply, a supply train behind them to get food. So it's nice to know for the Soviets that they're not, starving and all, that they're, cause it feels like, man, they're just suffering. Like, how are they getting their food? They're cut off from everything. Like these poor soldiers. Well, they're eating though. They're eating.
The Pitcairn. A week later, the Finns had managed to strengthen their position along the Pitcairn road, but the Soviets were still resisting tooth and nail. When Helgeland was reinforced by the 64th Regiment, he immediately created Task Force Race to strike at the new enemy formations approaching Pitcairn from the southeast. This was the 11th Rifle Division, commanded by Pyotr Borisov, and their attempts to re-establish a connection with Pitcairn would fail throughout January and early February. On January 22nd, Hanukkala started an attack against the western Lemeti motti. The following day, the Finns occupied one of the Soviet fortified bases, but the offensive wouldn't see much progress overall. On January 27th, Helgeland ordered a renewed attack to be carried out by several small assault forces. These were largely unsuccessful, but one of them managed to capture 2 heavy mortars. With these deadly weapons, the Finns split the enemy forces and reduced them by February 4th.
Wow.
Further west, Task Force Ram had managed to encircle the 208th and 316th Regiments in early February. Despite the Finns' relentless attacks, the Soviets managed to resist submission, and on February 17th they attempted a breakout. This action would decisively fail, and the Soviets would be cut down almost to a man. On February 5th, the 11th Division was ambushed by Task Force Race, and Borisov himself perished in the struggle. Leaderless, the 11th ceased all their attempts at relieving their fellow countrymen and adopted a passive stance instead. Further to the northeast, where the Finnish 12th Division had barely managed to halt the Soviet advance against the Lamola crossroads, the Finns continued to offer dogged resistance at the Kola River. Colonel Lauri Tiainen had very few forces, but he needed to reinforce his fellow countrymen to the south with the objective of cutting off the rest of the 18th Division. On January 12th, Tiainen created Task Force Tiger to assault the Soviet strongpoints at Uma. By January 17th, Tiger's 2 battalions had managed to cut off the road on both sides of the village, while the rest of Colonel Tiainen's forces proceeded to take control of the Uma road, creating 3 new motti. Just like in Lameti, however, the Soviets resisted fiercely, preventing Task Force Tiger.
Just look at how crazy this fighting is. It's like you got all these groups kind of like, I know this is just a visual here, but you know, it's like a whole line worth of just fighting, like dog fighting just going on, man. It's crazy. And like you can't like, you know, all this is kind of like unpassable. I mean, obviously you can probably, you know, make your way through it, but it'd be extremely difficult. So like it's just, you know, they're right in front of you. You have no other choice really just to fight whoever is behind you and in front of you because there's nowhere else to go, unless of course I'm sure you have some Finn snipers up in the hill, and then you probably have like the Soviets on the other side of the road behind a tree versus the Finns on the other side behind a tree, and then you just have that kind of combat. I don't know. It just seems like some crazy combat, you know, and a different kind of combat. I don't know. It's fascinating, I think.
Tiger from capturing their objective. Back at Kola, the depleted Finns were reinforced by the 23rd Division. But when the Soviet offensive on the Karelian Isthmus began, only the 69th Regiment could be spared to remain on this front. By the end of the month, the 69th was already fighting over the frozen river when Tiainen fell ill, so command of the division was reassigned to Colonel Antero Svensson. This man would soon face a perilous situation as the Soviets regrouped for a new offensive. On February 12th, Soviet High Command reinforced the 11th Division with the 34th Motorized Division, and both forces were reorganized into the 15th Army under Commander Mikhail Kovalyov, with the objective of renewing the offensive against the Pitcairn Road.
Well, right now apparently it's like the Soviets, they're gathering men from north and south, and it's like, here we go, guys, we got to do this. You know, we're gathering our men. We got to make a push, you know, and actually make some ground. We can't just stay back and continue to do what we're doing. So let's see how the Soviets handle all this, man. Let's see if they put their men to good use, you know.
As further attacks on Pitcairn failed, Kovalyov would be replaced by Vladimir Kurtchimov, and the Soviet High Command sent them the 144th and 119th Motorized Divisions as reinforcements, although their arrival would be seriously delayed. On March 6th, Kurtchimov ordered the 34th to start a general offensive on the Pitcairn Road. The Finns were entrenched on the islands south of Koirinoja, and a bloody struggle ensued. But despite the heroic Finnish resistance, the 34th was highly successful, capturing the large Petäjäsaari Island and the key Maksimansaari Island.
Damn.
Over the next few days, the last of the islands were cleared, and a supply route could be finally established to the 168th Division, encouraging them to continue to resist Finnish attacks. Meanwhile, the Finns retreated to Koirinoja, where they established solid defensive positions. These positions would hold on until the end of the war against the full might of the 15th Army.
Really?
The retaking of the supply lines, however, brought much hope and courage to the encircled Soviets. In early February, the Soviets trapped around Lavajärvi succeeded in a breakout, getting 810 men to safety. But not every attempt would be so successful. At Lake Saarijärvi, the Soviets had all been killed or captured after their breakout failed at the end of the month. The two motti at Uma and Sira, meanwhile, would hold on with dogged resistance until the end of the war, without attempting any escape. On February 28th, The 18th Division's headquarters at the eastern Lemeti Moti attempted their own breakout under the cover of night. The Finns were taken by surprise, but they managed to inflict 400 casualties on the fleeing Soviets. Although the Soviets managed to break through the Finnish line, they ended up encountering heavy Finnish opposition on the shores of Lake Vuotanejärvi, where the division command was destroyed. Only 1,200 soldiers managed to escape, 900 of them wounded. The 18th Division ended up suffering over 9,000 casualties, the heaviest on any unit in the entire war.
Wow.
In contrast, the 168th Division continued to offer fierce resistance around their perimeter until the end of the war, although suffering heavy casualties as well. After the victory at the Pitkäranta Road, the Soviet 8th Army had more forces available to reinforce the Kola River front. Towards the end of February, Commander Grigory Stjärn had amassed 6 divisions to carry out a renewed offensive against the Finnish positions, including the 1st Rifle Corps that had retreated from the Battle of Eläjärvi. Stjärn's plan was for the 1st Corps to attack in a 3-division-wide front to prevent any encirclements, while the 14th Rifle Corps to the south flanked the Finnish defences and enveloped them. On March 2nd, the Soviets started their offensive with a preliminary bombardment. By midday, the 3 divisions of the 1st Corps and the 128th Motorized Division from the 14th started their advance. Despite the great superiority in numbers that the Soviets enjoyed, Colonel Svensson had prepared for such an assault, setting up barbed wire obstacles and arranging his forces in defensive positions to take advantage of the deep snow. The frontal assault of the 1st Corps failed, but the 128th to the south fared a little better, as after crossing the Kola River, the Soviets managed to advance to the eastern ridge of Lake Hanatsalampi. The following day, the 1st Corps resumed its attack, breaking through the barbed wire at some points. But the Soviets suffered massive losses for little gain, as the Finns killed everyone that managed to make it to the breach.
Wow.
High Command was furious at this failure, and after a few days of recovery, they ordered Stjärn to start the offensive again on March 7th. In a change of plans, the 87th Rifle Division of the 14th Corps was reassigned to support the 1st Corps' assault, while the 128th started to turn directly northwards in an attempt to fold the Finnish lines in on themselves. After a preliminary bombardment, the 1st Corps renewed its offensive. This time, the 56th Rifle Division managed to cross the Kola River and establish a bridgehead while repelling several Finnish counterattacks. Their courageous effort would be in vain though, as the other Soviet divisions were stalled in the deep snow. In the end, the defenders managed to push back the 56th and regain their main defensive line. The Finns
Man, that had to be so frustrating, man. Just look at all the men the Soviets have, and they can't do it. I mean, you think about it, you're going through probably waist deep snow, and then you get at the end of this barbed wire, and then you got a guy probably sitting up there staring at you, probably freaking, trying to snipe your head off, and it just had to be like, oh my god. I say it all. I've been saying it all the time, but the conditions, man. It's horrible. Kind of wish we had a visual, of it, or they showed maybe some clips or something, or some pictures pop up. But I pictured in my head, and it's got to be so frustrating to have some more men, and the captains or whatever, the generals are all mad. What are you guys doing? You got more men, just go. This is not working, man. They're waiting for a breakthrough here. The Finns are holding them off, man. The Finns are feisty. Although they're not letting them get by. So good job on the Finns. You're outnumbered big time, but it's what job you got to do, and they're doing their job. So
continues to resist and regain their main defensive line. The Finns continued to resist the Soviet attacks in the following days, but despite receiving reinforcements, on March 10th, the Soviets finally took control of the defences along the river. Meanwhile, Svensson sent the 34th Regiment to stop the 128th Division, which managed to slow down the Soviet advance. And in the north, the 75th Rifle Division finally took their hill objective, repelling Finnish counterattacks to retake this vantage point and breaking through the defences on the Loimola road. By now, however, the 56th Division was too depleted and had to be relieved by the 87th Division. Despite Finnish maneuvers to stop the 87th in its tracks, this division had joined the 56th on March 12th to start their attack on the road. Although the southern Soviet assault had failed, the breaches in the north and centre of the line forced the Finns to abandon almost all of their positions along the Kola River.
Wow.
But as they were retreating, Svensson decided against any further retreat and started preparing a combined counterattack to regain the river front. This counteroffensive, however, would be prevented by the end of the war. Despite Soviet success on the previous day, the battle had not ended in victory for either side. This would be crucial for the negotiation of a ceasefire, as Mannerheim needed the Kola line to hold on to gain a better bargaining position. It was on this front that the prodigious sniper Simo Helha fought, serving in the 6th Company of the 34th Regiment. Although Helha himself didn't keep track of his own achievements, his comrades did. Early in December, he had managed to kill 51 enemy soldiers in just 3 days, which was unbelievable even to his superiors. The Finnish officials then placed him with an official observer that attested to 542 confirmed kills in a space of just 100 days.
What?
Through his service, he would be promoted to junior sergeant while dispatching many troublesome enemy snipers. The legend of his prowess and achievements soon extended throughout all the known world, and he became known to the Soviet soldiers as the White Death.
What?
On March 6th, while adopting a high knee shooting position, Helha was shot in the face with an explosive bullet which pierced his left cheek. Although he was proclaimed dead, he actually survived and managed to recover with the help of 10 operations. He would never return to frontline service though, and he would go on to live until the age of 96, finally dying in April 2002.
Wow.
Further north, Group Talvala had managed to stabilize its situation at the Aitajoki line.
That is awesome, man, dude. Wow, the White Death, is that what they said? Wow. Over 500, that's insane. And he didn't really care about his achievements, he was just doing his job. But his comrades were like, man, you are kicking butt. We're going to keep track for you, man, because this is amazing how good of a shot you are. Wow. I know the Soviets had a couple of good snipers. They like Vasily Zaitsev or something like that. They had a big sniper, but obviously not in this war. But man, it's kind of crazy how some of these snipers, man, the numbers they put up. Woo! Good job, man. Good job. 50 kills in like 3 days. Man, I guess if you're the Soviets and you pull up and you get a feeling that he's there, you're probably like, dang it, I don't want to turn around. Woo!
As the 1st Rifle Corps was ordered to retreat for the renewed assault against the Kola River. As a reward, Colonel Paavo Talvala would be promoted to Major General for his success and determination. But in February, their northern position at Lieksa was threatened by the elite soldiers of the 54th Mountain Rifle Division advancing against the town of Kumo. Led by Commander Nikolai Gusevsky, if the 54th could breach the Finnish defences, they could drive south in a pincer movement against Lieksa or north against Suomussalmi. In the previous months, the 25th Regiment had managed to halt the advance of Gusevsky's forces with the execution of small-scale guerrilla attacks. But once Colonel Hjalmar Salasvuo from the North Finland group had secured victory at Suomussalmi and the Rate Road, he was ordered to take his 9th Division to the defence of Kumo. By the end of January, when Salasvuo arrived at the front, Gusevsky's forces had already dug defensive positions along a 45-kilometer road.
Wow.
Salasvuo would use the same Moti tactics that he used back in Rate, preparing ice roads and setting jumping-off points for his soldiers. Salasvo's men were highly experienced in these Motti tactics, and on January 29th, the soldiers would start to execute the encirclements. In a matter of hours, Gusevski's men would be surrounded by 5 Mottis, suffering tremendous losses. The following day, the bulk of the 9th Division was engaged in pinning down the trapped 54th soldiers, while Colonel Johann Makiniemi led a strike force to capture the strategic Lutavara Hill, preventing any further Soviet relief attempts from the east. When the hill was captured on January 31st, General Choikov assembled a task force of 2 ski battalions to dislodge the Finns from Lutavara. But this task force was catastrophically disorganized, and over the next few days, Makiniemi destroyed the ski battalions almost to a man. The Soviets, though, still regrouped at Kilpalankangas and prepared to renew their assault, which alarmed Salasvo. He sent several attacks against this position until the Soviets had to retreat to Rihivara on February 9th. 2 days later, the Finns started an all-out attack against Gusevski's headquarters at Luelahti. For a total of 4 days, the tenacious Soviets managed to hold the Finns at bay, but then a new threat appeared from the north. On February 11th, the Soviets had sent a ski brigade under Colonel Vyacheslav Dolin to cut off the Finnish supply route, and he had managed to break contact with Finnish forces in the Kiekinkoski area. This was because Dolin had been handed highly inaccurate maps, and the route he ended up taking caught even the Finns by surprise. But this would ultimately be his doom, as the Soviets were now trapped at Vetko, and the Finnish snipers were quickly pinpointing them. On the morning of February 15th, almost 400 Soviet bodies lay on the battleground, Dolin himself among them. Choikov then tried to relieve Gusevski by sending the reformed 163rd Division on February 25th, but this force would also be repelled by the ferocious Finns at Lutavara Hill. From March 1st onwards, Salasvo bombarded the Luelahti Motti with 4,500 shells in total, the heaviest bombardment executed by the Finns in the entire war. Each day, the Finns paid a high cost in lives in order to gain a little bit more ground from the dogged Soviet troops. On March 8th, the defences of the Luelahti Motti were finally overcome, with half of Gusevski's men managing to flee to the Rukavara Motti. The Finns then proceeded to turn their focus against Rukavara, but Gusevski would hold on until the end of the war a week later. This was Salasvo's costlier campaign, losing more than 4,500 men in the struggle against the 13,000 men that the Soviets lost. But in the end, it would be a success, as they critically crippled the 54th as a fighting force and managed to secure the flanks of Suomussalmi and Lieksa. The Finnish victories at Elejabi, Kittilä and Uuma, in combination with the stopping of the Soviet advance at the Kola River and Kumo, brought much hope and relief to Helsinki, and contributed enormously to the peace talks at the conclusion of the war. Meanwhile, the poor performance of the Red Army on all 4 fronts had shown the Soviet High Command that the offensive operation had many flaws. Commander Kirill Meretskov had underestimated the size of the Finnish forces, their resistance, and ability at guerrilla warfare, and the sturdy and well-prepared defences on the Mannerheim line, and in turn, they had been slaughtered by the enemy. Meretskov would see himself replaced by the High Command due to his failure. The new man in charge of the operation, Semyon Timoshenko, would go on to give the Soviets a new fighting chance to prove to the world that they wouldn't be defeated so easily. Our series on the Winter War will continue soon, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button. We would like to express our gratitude to our Patreon supporters and channel members who make the creation of our videos possible. Now you can also support.
Wow. So, okay, so they're not done yet. We only have one more episode left. How the Red Army finally defeated the Finns. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Too late now. Well, there you have it, guys. The Finns, man, kicking butt again. They're just stalemates. I mean, no, they're winning the battles. I mean, but not really pushing them out. But the Soviets aren't really making any leeway. Uh, so wow, that was definitely a good episode for the Finns. But apparently the Soviets are coming back next episode. Are they going to win the war? It's the last one, and it says how the Red Army finally defeated the Finns. It doesn't mean they won the war, though. So I'm not sure exactly uh, what that means. I mean, they might finally defeat the Finns to get themselves like uh, a better, I guess, treaty or like better peace negotiations or whatever it's called. So yeah, that might be it. They beat them, and then they finally decide to do talks and beat them in some battles or whatnot. Uh, because I know they're not, because the whole purpose for the Soviets is to go down to Helsinki, take over, and get exactly what they want. I don't see that happening next in one episode. That's going to happen. I don't think so. So my prediction is that they win a pretty good battle. You know, if they defeat them in a pretty good battle, and then negotiation talks uh, come after that, right? So I think that's probably what's going to happen in the next episode, the final episode of the Winter War. But so far, pretty good, man. It's been dogfights, man. They've just been at each other and trying to gain every inch of land they can. Each side, fighting, just fighting for their lives and this awful terrain, the snow. Dang, man. But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think below. Uh, man, that sniper, man, the guy's pretty amazing. If you're from, I'm sure if you're from Finland, I bet you they teach you a lot about that sniper in school. I bet you he's definitely on the top list when it comes to history class. I'm sure, and definitely, I'm sure this war is definitely a big thing in Finland. I'm not sure how much, if you're from, Russia, how much is this war even talked about, over there in Russia? Because I know, like, a lot of countries, they always talk. Russia might. I don't know. They might still win this war. Apparently, I mean, they're about to defeat them. Apparently, but in like countries usually only really focus on the wars that they win, and not so much on the wars they lose. So it's kind of curious of how much on each side this war is kind of brought up. So, anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button below, please and thank you. And yeah, we'll get to it tomorrow with the next episode. I mean, it's real late. It's like around midnight of me recording this. I'm really tired when I started recording this, but this episode as it went on has woken me up because it got exciting. And so that's kind of cool. So these episodes are awesome when you're tired, ready to go to bed, but but it wakes you up. So that's really awesome. But anyways, guys, like, subscribe. Catch you guys in future videos. Another awesome video by Kings and Generals, the Winter War. So anyways, I'm out of here, guys. Peace. Bye bye.